So I think using classic orchestral sounds is one of the coolest vibes you can add into a lo-fi hip-hop track or even an R&B or pop track. The biggest problem with this sound design idea is that if you're trying to pull a sample from, a previously recorded material from the past, it's very likely your music gets copyright striked or content ID, demonetized, what have you. So in this video, we're going to get into creating that sound yourself. And one of the things I like to highlight is the use of Spitfire Audio's Labs library. So this is a virtual instrument. It's a collection of string libraries that's totally for free. It actually covers a ton of different instruments. You can see here all the different libraries that it covers. It's pretty amazing. It's been around for quite a while. I remember when it first came out. They've added and added and added more and more of these libraries to it. And again, they're all for free. It's amazing. You can create a really interesting orchestral arrangement with free libraries like this one. And another thing that kind of holds people back is how to arrange for strings and horns and woodwinds when you might not know a lot of music theory or study counterpoint or voice leading and all that kind of stuff. And the truth is, that stuff is important, but you can follow a framework to do it yourself, basically just using triads. So in the example you heard in the beginning of the video, it's a chord progression using 3 chords: A flat major, E flat, F minor, or what I would call a 4-1-2 chord progression in the key of E flat. So in that context, you look at your chords, you look at the triads, the 3 notes that make the chord you're talking about, and you just want to focus on those 3 notes. As you build the layers of the different instruments, you just express the notes in those triads in different interesting ways and experiment with layering these instruments together. So let's get right into the first example, which is a strings long articulation that comes from the Spitfire LABS library. You can see it right here. And if we go over to the clip, a nice little tip that you can use with Ableton is I can hit fold, folds down only the notes that are used in the Midi clip. On the piano roll, you can see here, they just use sharps instead of flats, but this is an A flat major chord going to the E flat major chord going to the F minor chord. So there you go, the triads expressed on the screen. You're gonna notice something interesting though. At the top of that A flat major chord, I have an E flat and I hold it when I go to the E flat major chord as well. It shares that note between the 2 chords. And that's kind of an idea. You don't want to write in a triad, how a lot of people do when they do it with a mouse, and then they kind of click and hold on to those 3 notes and just drag it up. And you just kind of want to avoid parallel motion when you're working orchestral arranging, because it's just not typical. They kind of stay away from that, right? So you can do that in other genres, but maybe with orchestral sounds, it won't sound very natural. And you can see here in the F minor chord, on the bottom, I have an A flat, which is the minor third of an F minor chord. So I don't have the root note necessarily as the lowest note in that chord voicing. We call that an inversion. It's another technique you can try out with your triads in that orchestral sound. Don't just use the root-based voicing. If we go over here, you can see cello. This is actually taken from another library in a free library in the labs. This is Frozen Strings. So this is harmonic birdsong cello. Very interesting sound. A lot of these sounds are very usable, practical. Some are also kind of sound designy, very interesting. And here I'm just using the root notes: A flat, E flat, F. So just the root note or tonic of the chord. I'm strengthening with the cellos. I go here to the woodwinds. You can see this is actually from the tape orchestra. So it's the Woods loop preset, kind of like a tape loop of woods in that sort of mellotron style. Very interesting sounds here. And this is playing the root note with a third of every chord. And I've also got something interesting here. This is Sage's pad. This is basically kind of like a organic sequence kind of sound. I don't even know how to describe it. It's very cool, organic sounding. I use it for the root notes as well. And if I just solo these 3 things so far, you can hear what that sounds like. So very deep, old, and kind of flowing together as it expresses the chords. And you can get very creative with this idea with other instruments. Here's the harmonic flights actually using 7th chords. I go from an A flat major 7 to an F minor 7. That's just extending the triad with 1 extra note. In this case, the 7th, that's from the harmonic flights. So I'm using different libraries, all from Spitfire LABS, to create these unique sounds, and you just get this beautiful, interesting sounding orchestral arrangement completely for free. It's amazing how many producers and students I meet that have never heard of Spitfire Labs. It's so many free sounds you can use. And then finally, when it comes to arranging, I talk about lines. These are melodic lines that you interlace into the chords to create more interesting harmonic movements. So we're not just treating the orchestra as a pad, we're using these harmonic lines to sort of add interest. These are actually trumpets, and yes, it comes from yet another library in the Labs setup, Trumpet Fields. Coast is Clear 1 is the preset name, and that's kind of playing a line that goes along with these things, and you can hear it in action right here. Right, so a little melodic idea just kind of interlaced in there. It's very cool, very simple, doesn't have to be a lot of notes or anything like that. And so now we're going to get into how do you actually mix this stuff into the track to sound older, because you've been hearing everything with my plugins on there. So you can see right here what I'm doing is actually using another free plugin from Arturia. This is the Tape Mellofi. I believe this is still for free. It might cost a little bit of money now, but it's a great plugin. And then I'm basically just using EQ to sort of band pass out the lows and the highs. I don't just take out the highs when I'm going lo-fi. I also kind of take out the lows. I'm especially doing that here because I have a sub bass in this track. And here I also have my own custom Ableton plugin chain. You can actually download this for free. A link is in the description, but just to show you that you can use Ableton stock plugins to create a lo-fi sound really, really well. So this is adding really cool saturation with the amp plugin, the cab, got the chorus plugin to give it that sort of tape warble sound, some EQ, some vinyl distortion, some crackle there, and then just makeup gain. And you can download this, put this right in your user library if you're an Ableton Live Suite user, throw it on your tracks, experiment with it. It's a lot of fun. But if I turn these off altogether, you're going to be shocked at what Spitfire Labs sounds like normally. So let's just turn these off, and then we'll A/B it. So check it out. Now we go back to lo-fi. Back to the original fidelity. Pretty amazing, right? It's a tremendous loss of fidelity in the track when you do that. And again, I'm just using mostly Ableton stock plugins to do it. You can see here if I go up, I've got other things happening in the track, including another Labs sound. It's actually a felt piano instrument that's inside Labs, running that with kind of an arpeggiation sequence. You can see here. Then I've got some sub bass, and then I've of course got my kind of retro guitar recorded on top of it. That's actually mirroring the melodic line that's in the trumpets I talked about earlier. So those elements come into play, and then I have my drum beat above. Once I have the sound design in order that I want, I basically take my drums, particularly the kick and snare, and oftentimes you can see I'm stacking these sounds together. These are actually taken from Lo-Fi Meditations, the demo pack, which you can also get for free. A link is in the description below, which is a great pack to check out for this style. I group them together in a group track called SK, which is snare and kick. So essentially, I can send that to a group track of all the musical elements, including my orchestra, called the pump track. Everything's going to get pumped by this compressor. So definitely check out the Sidechain compression tutorial on my channel. But you can see that right here. So as I hit the track, you're going to hear the kick and snare actually pump the music. So you can see there, it's helping the music kind of duck out of the way when the kick and the snare hits. So the kick and the snare have a little more dynamic dominance in the track, and the music sort of pumps along to it, which creates a nice sort of interesting dynamic effect. So that kind of covers all the things I do when I'm getting the sounds I want for a classic orchestral sound, and then mixing them into the track and mixing them with the drums and putting it all together to make something that could, be on a chilled cow live broadcasts or get on a Spotify playlist, all that kind of stuff, and be a successful track. So if you found this useful, be sure to check out the links below, get some of those free materials, check it out for yourself. I also have a link in the description to the Discord that I've started where you can ask me more questions, or if you want feedback on your music, I'm going to start that up now. And yeah, let me know in the comments what you think of this kind of stuff. If you want me to talk about this in the context of FL Studio, you know, you can make lo-fi sounds in FL Studio. I've done it before, and some YouTube shorts I've done before. You can get free downloads for that as well. So that's all out there, but I hope this came in handy for you. Check this stuff out, try it for yourself, have fun with it. And yeah, I will see you in the next video. Take care.